welcome to another episode of Get Booked with Mary and Jennifer. Hey Jen, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about vampires today because Midnight Sun just came out, which our copy is on its way, but it's not here just yet. But in case you didn't know, it's a retelling of Twilight from Stephanie Meyer. It is Twilight from Edward's perspective. So it's a big novel. I want to say it clocks in about 700 pages. You get to hear more about Edward, so Twilight is your jam. Put a hold on that.
I mean, do you really consider Twilight vampires real vampires? I mean, they're sparkle vampires.
They do sparkle, but they do also suck blood, so.
I mean, sure. I'm not going to go for the easy joke. I want to, but I'm not. So, my first pick for vampire stuff is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So this is the newest reboot of the comic, and this actually has Buffy back in high school. So if you've been following along, or if you haven't been following along, the original Buffy comics, well, not the original ones, but like the ones everyone was really crazy about a couple years ago, picked up after the series was over. This one doesn't. This one is Buffy back at Sunnydale, being a vampire slayer, but it's a little bit different than what you're used to, so it's pretty cool. Also, the artwork's really awesome, and the covers are amazing. So
what's the artwork?
Oh yeah, so the artwork is like solid, like classic comic book art. Like, ooh, look, giant monster. But the best part for me is they did a lot of like really cool covers. Well, that's the first cover. So like this, and then I can't remember if the Jen Bartel covers are in here, but they're very good. So what's your next book?
My next one is one of my favorite vampire books, Vampire Academy. So I want to say around the time Twilight came out, about 15-ish years ago, there was a huge surge of vampire books, and this was one of them. It is the start of a series. There is a vampire princess, and she is guarded by Rose, who is the main character, and there's lots of drama, there's lots of romance, there's just lots of bad people that they have to deal with, and it's really cool. All those are out. The series are all out, so
cool. My next book is Adventure Time. This is the Enchiridion and Marcy's Super Secret Scrapbook. So this is actually a pretty fun book if you are an Adventure Time fan. If you aren't, you should just watch it because it's amazing. It's one of my favorite cartoons ever. We have a cat named after Finn Mertens, and we had a dog named after Marceline the Vampire Queen. So the reason why I bring this book up, the Enchiridion is featured a lot in Adventure Time, but if you flip it over, it's actually Marcy's, which is Marceline's, super secret journal. So it has a lot of backstory for her, and she has like drawings and little scrapbooks and like pictures and stuff, and it's really, really cute. So yes, that is my pick. What do you got?
That sounds fun. Another old school book, Blue Bloods. This is by Melissa De La Cruz. She actually had some really interesting news on Twitter that I read about the other week.
What was it?
So she just signed with Disney Hyperion to do her own line of books, and she's also bringing back Blue Bloods. So Blue Bloods is like vampires mixed with Gilmore Girls. They've got like the very Emily Gilmore. Notice the pearls.
I would watch that Disney Plus TV show.
Right?
Right?
So, these are fun. It also goes a lot back in history, kind of like to the Mayflower people, so that's where you get like the Emily Gilmore, like, snooty kind of stuff.
The Mayflower people, the Pilgrims?
Yeah, well, like
Puritans?
the DAR type people, so you have
okay.
like, it's kind of like, I want to say, if I remember this correctly, that they're kind of like reincarnations of some of those people.
Oh.
So you have to like figure out who's who, and like, but it's very wealthy, lots of drama, people who shouldn't be where they are, and, you know, all sorts of fun.
Cool. So my next book is an unconventional pick. Normally we talk about... I know. Like, actually, I've been spot on for the past 2 Get Books. You're the one that's gone off script. I will have everyone know. Right. Anyway, so this is the Dungeons & Dragons book for Curse of the Strahd. So Strahd is a vampire. He's Count Strahd von Zarovich. So if you like Dungeons & Dragons or you've ever played before, we have lots of Dungeons & Dragons books. So this is actually an adventure. If you wanted to be the game master for this game, you are basically have got your adventurers and you are luring them into Count Strahd's like little kingdom. and it's like he set a clever trap, and can your adventurers get out of it? Who knows? Maybe they can. Maybe they can't. Maybe the adventure goes sideways. That's what happens with my campaigns.
That's what happens in mine too.
Oh god, my last campaign for the library went evil, so that was fun. I just embrace it and go with it. I know, right? So, but yeah, so this is pretty cool. If you want to like learn a new thing during quarantine pandemic times.
Nice. I've got another old school vampire book. This is part of the the stories of the Morganville Vampires. This is, I feel like, the last book that's wrapping things up. It's short stories. But the first one is... I can't remember what the first one is. Oh, Glass Houses. So, it's about a girl who is 16 years old, wicked smart. She's in college. And she ends up at this house with these two girls. Well, she's part of the two girls, and then the two guys. One of the guys is a vampire. It's a place where vampires are deadly and dangerous, and you don't ever walk alone after dark. But there's also like some really interesting parts. So there's like a Merlin character who is kind of Merlin from the King Arthur times, who's really, really, really smart, but also I feel like he's got a little bit of dementia, so he's very scary. And he likes Claire, and he takes a liking to Claire because of her brains. But you also never really trust him. Like, you never really trust anybody. It's very, very interesting. Anyways, lots of drama, lots of romance, lots of danger, and almost dying 8 million times. So, great series. All of them are out.
I mean, can you really die if you're a vampire?
You can.
I mean, I know the answer.
It's hard, but you can.
I know. Alright, so my last book is an adult pick. This is one of my favorite vampire books of all times. It is Stephen King's Salem's Lab. I remember reading this when I was like in 8th grade, and I was like, yeah, it's kind of scary. I reread it when, originally I'm from Georgia, so I didn't really understand what New England looked like. Like, I watched Gilmore Girls, but that was about it, right? And so when I started rereading some Stephen King when I moved to New England, suddenly I was a lot more scared, because all of a sudden I understood the landscape, I understood what the buildings looked like, and I was like, oh Lord, I can see how this happens. So, I mean, whatever. But yeah, so Salem's Lot is pretty cool. There's a kid that like gets really sick, and there's also this strange guy moves to town with like an antique business or something, and it's just, there's a lot of things that aren't adding up. And this one guy is like, what is going on? And so, like, as the story progresses, it's like, oh, it's vampires. And so there's a whole vampire slaying thing. And it's just, like, the whole town is just in terror. It's great. But then at the same time, it's like, why would you believe there's vampires? This is, like, New England in the 70s. Nothing ever happens here. Guess what? Although I guess it really, if you live in the Stephen King universe, you have a, like, low level of dread all the time. Something could happen to you. Could be aliens, could be clowns. Could be a whole other dimension that's like taking a, trip to your world. That's the whole Dark Tower series. Like, it could be anything. It could be the Trash Can Man. That's a Stan reference. We're not gonna talk about the Stan because that's a pandemic book.
Alright, so as you may have heard, vampires are now making a comeback back into teen literature. This is one of the big ones that people have been talking about. It's called The Beautiful. People were wicked excited about this book. I have not read it yet, but it sounds really good. I'm just going to read you the tagline that they put in the books, because it sounds great.
Yeah, I've read other books by this author, and I've been impressed, so this is on my to-be-read list.
Mine too. In 19th century New Orleans, Celine, a dressmaker from Paris, becomes embroiled in a murder mystery that's connected to a glamorous supernatural cohort. There also might be some serial killers. Yeah, lots of stuff. So, yes, vampires are on the way back.
Is that a standalone or a series?
That is a really good question, and I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Oh, this on the... Nope. I think it's a standalone, but I'm not 100%.
The only reason I ask that is because she often writes, like, trilogies and duologies.
She does. And my last book, surprise! It's Meg Cabot.
Wait, Meg Cabot has a vampire book?
Meg Cabot has a vampire book. She actually has 2.
No way!
I think it was
I learned something, friends.
Right. Meg Cabot. Vampires. Who knew? This is really fun. It's a little bit different than Meg Cabot than you're used to, but it has, like, her same awesome parts in her book. So it's romantic, there's some suspense, there's funny, because she's funny. Yeah, it's fun. I love Meg Cabot.
Cool.
So, vampires. We also do have vampire book lists on our Encore staff picks shelf. So if you like vampires, there's lots more books to choose from.
Sparkle, sparkle.
We'll see you guys next week.
Goodbye.